Welcome back to Bennett's BikeSocial and to another Better Riding Series episode powered by Honda Motorcycles UK. Joining me, as always, is our expert motorbike coach, Mark McVeigh. And here he is.
G'day, Michael. How are you going there today?
Good day, Mark. How are you?
Yes, very well. Thanks, mate. Very well. Ready for another one?
Yeah, exciting times, right? I mean, we're sitting here in May and it's miserable outside. I think we've had summer, been and gone. What are we learning about today, Mr. McVeigh?
Signal to noise. And it's really about how to focus on what matters when you're riding your bike. And we're going to kind of talk around, the modern sort of motorcycle learning environment. It's kind of making it harder than it should be. And training thousands of riders, the biggest problems I see is not the lack of information, but it's kind of too much information. We've got obviously YouTube, social media, forums, long videos, short videos, kind of endless options.
So if there is lots of information, if there's tips and advice from every angle, what's the problem?
Well, the real problem is the signal versus the noise. So if you consider the signal, that's useful information that makes you a better rider. It helps you understand what matters, how to practice it, how to measure, an improvement over time. And then noise is kind of like everything else. It's myths, egos, these hero videos, confident advice from people who look like they're a good rider, but maybe not necessarily a good coach. And then, this is bad information often, and it doesn't just waste your time, it can put you at risk. So, if your exposure to training has been, mostly noise, then your reactions under pressure, they'll be noisy as well.
It's getting rid of all the information that isn't quite right, but how do you do that? I mean, you've got a motorcycle school, haven't you? So you must see examples of people coming on going, oh yeah, I can do this, this and the other, because I've seen it on YouTube.
Yes, all the time. I got plenty of stories, but I got one good one. So remember this one guy, and he's maybe probably in his 50s, and basically what he was doing then this was training on a track, but road rider training. So as he was coming into the corner, he would accelerate as he leaned into the corner, and I actually had to pull him in straight away. I was so worried. And basically, when I asked him about it, he said, oh, that's what my mates told me when I was 20. They said you got to power through the corner. So I just was blown away how he actually survived that long. And, his bad habit, 30 years old, was so ingrained, it basically took me all day to try and get him, into the right way.
Yeah, that's amazing. You can think about how you've got an end goal. And to a degree, some of what he was advised, a tiny portion is correct, but he's taken all of the learnings, all of the precursor stuff, all of the other elements that lead up to that. And it's like he's gone straight to advanced, isn't it? He's comes their license. In order to get their license, they have to have a degree of training, right?
Yeah, but I mean, we talk about this quite a lot, 20 hours roughly to get your license, 20 hours of training. And it's only the beginning of your motorcycle journey, right? You've got basic control skills and road rules, and it does not create mastery. It cannot. Mastery takes time, repetition, feedback, and a structured progression. So after, riders get their training, they're basically released onto the road to fend for themselves. And essentially there's no clear pathway, from that basic, competence to advanced riding. And, there's no structured plan for that, 20 hours towards thousands of hours, towards mastery.
So what are riders doing instead?
Yeah, well, they're trying to fill the gaps, aren't they? They're on YouTube, they're watching videos, they're, following influencers, copying their mates, listening to whoever sounds the most confident. And while some of the information is useful, most of it is fragmented or completely wrong, for the rider's ability.
It's funny, isn't it? Yeah, because confidence is a really strong word. If you're standing at the front of a classroom, isn't it, and you're speaking confidently, people are just going to listen because they think, oh, well, he clearly knows his stuff. He's not umming or ahhing. He's not, skipping a beat. But I mean, surely riders can learn something from all these online videos and all this noise, as you put it.
Well, this is where the signal to noise, the safety comes into it because, riding ability is not the same as coaching ability. And I'll give you an example of that. At my school, I had lots of really great coaches, and some were like seriously talented riders, including champions, right? So these people had outstanding machine control, but we had a really big problem because, riding at that high level doesn't automatically mean they know how to coach properly. So they can ride instinctively, but they didn't know how to create, that sort of learning pathway to take another rider, who's kind of often confused to competence. That was the key thing.
Despite how talented you are, not necessarily how you think you are, but actually are, because you've got medals and trophies to prove
Yeah.
it. But coaching, and they're two very different skills then.
100%, 100%. So, like I say, these great riders were riding on instinct, right? And the good coach knows how to turn that instinct into that kind of, repeatable learning process. So coaching, it needs structure, observation, diagnosis, communication, risk management. That's huge. So you kind of need an understanding of how people learn, how fear affects them, cognitive overload that can shut down a rider's ability to think clearly.
Well, are you saying that? But if you are a highly skilled rider, if you are a really, really good rider, you can become a coach. I mean, how do you do that? Can you do that?
Yeah, well, you can. So, but not everybody. Okay, so some of the coaches we didn't, bring into certain programs. So say we would maybe have them do the high level race training because then the riders that they were training were close to their ability, and but they couldn't, train riders kind of at a lower level because the gap was kind of too much. So I'd already built we've got our complete riding system. Okay. So then I kind of built a train the trainer program, and that turned, skilled riders into actual coaches who could, develop the customer skills safely. And that distinction matters, more than ever now because the online world is full of people who seem to be good riders, but far fewer people who can actually teach.
Yeah, I mean, far from sitting here and saying, "Oi, listen to us. We've got all the skills and the experience, and please trust us." What is there anything that can be done? We can't control social media, can we?
Well, that's a really interesting point. So, I've been looking at this, and in China, there's a growing concern around the world about, unqualified people giving advice, right? But in China, it's actually starting to come to a head. What they've been doing is they require influencers who discuss professional subjects, medicine, law, education, finance. They have to prove that they have, they've got the qualifications or the credentials. Yep. So they
Wow.
don't spread misinformation. Yeah. So that's already happening in China. So, whatever your view on government regulation and censorship, that core point is actually quite hard to ignore, right?
That is fascinating. I'd not heard of that one before, Mark.
Yeah.
I'm impressed that someone out there is doing something about it because it's too easy. When you're talking about a subject or a topic that can have catastrophic consequences if you're giving, if you as the unqualified person is giving the information out, it's horrific. Just in return for a few quid off the advertising. What should riders therefore do to find the signal instead of the noise?
Yeah, well, I mean, if you look again, we're evidence based. Look at the evidence. Motorbike crashers, often in corners, often a similar story. The riders go too quick for their skill. They're looking at the wrong thing, etc., etc. So these are not mysteries. Nobody's inventing anything new. They're not inventing a new way to crash, right? So our riding system, as you know, we use these three pillars, skill, craft, and mind. The skill is the machine control, um, your ability, to match the kind of grip of the tire, and normally done in a controlled environment. So you have those skills up your sleeve on the road. And then the craft is the road strategy, hazard perception, situational awareness, etc. And then the mind, that cognitive, emotional side of things. And those three pillars underpin the good riding. So together with data and flow, that's kind of, that's a step-by-step path to development, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. So they don't. So riders, they don't need more random tips. What they need is this better riding series, but they also need a riding system, don't they?
They do, they do. So, a common mistake is riders chasing outcomes instead of improving their inputs. They want to be smoother, safer, more confident, but they're kind of the results. And the real improvement comes from, the detail. So, if you want to corner better, start with the vision. Are you looking far enough ahead? Are you moving your head? Are you picking up the exit point? Are you scanning for hazards? Or braking, what about the managing the pressure? Are you covering your brake, etc., etc.? Are you loading the front tire before you kind of ask too much for it? So it's not one magic thing. It's about lots of small inputs applied at the right time and in the right order. And, the training system, I guess, gives that rider that process.
You mentioned flow. What does that mean?
Flow is a godsend. When I discovered flow in my school like 15 years ago, absolutely magical. And this brings in the mind pillar. So flow is kind of like a high performance psychology concept. And it's really where kind of action and awareness merge. So on your bike, it can feel like the ride is actually slowing down. Your vision opens up, everything's smoother. You stop fighting the bike, if that makes sense. But of course, like many things, flow doesn't happen by accident. Challenge and the skill have to be balanced. If your challenge is too low, and we see this all the time, the riders are kind of bored and they stop improving, right? And if it's too high, then the rider's anxious and tense, and then there's more risk. So there's a sweet spot, and it's like a 5% challenge, stretch goal. So, for example, if a rider's doing emergency stop and they can, say pull half a G, well, we want them, up to the maximum performance of that bike, which is often over a G. So we'll take them there in those 5% stretch goals. And often you'll see if the rider goes, too far beyond that, it spooks them because they haven't been there before. So 5% step, practice until it becomes intuitive. And that is the smart way to ride and train. So same with cornering. Don't chase your lean angle. Start by lifting your vision, improve your entry speed. Make sure that that's matched, to your skill and your ability. Relaxing the arms, and you'll step by step. That's how you get into flow.
Very cool. I think we did an episode about flow, didn't we? But that was nicely put. If we're talking specifically about signal, we'll ignore the noise. Is there a sort of a plan? Do you have a do you have a step-by-step plan? Do you have a guide there for riders to try?
Yes, we do. So step one is kind of like audit your inputs. Look at what you're consuming. I know it's so easy to be doom scrolling these days, but yeah, you really just need to be careful what you're actually consuming. So if the content doesn't explain, why something works, how to practice it, etc., you have to treat that carefully, so don't be getting on the clickbait. Second step is check the source. Who is this person? What is their real world training, coaching experience? That's really important. Not just being impressive riding a bike. It's not the same as we've, clearly explained. Step three is, focus on one thing at a time, one thing per ride. You can't fix everything at once, right? So we're saying, thousands of hours to get to mastery. So you just need to go step by step. So, one ride, you might focus on your vision. Another one might be throttle or braking, etc. So that's really important. And then the fourth step is to practice in those 5% stretch goals. So always slightly beyond your comfort zone. And basically best to practice that in a controlled environment before you go on the road, whether it's braking, throttle, steering, vision, whatever. Fifth step is to try and get some type of feedback. So you can't beat having a good coach or a good school, but you can use video and data and drills, and then analyze it after. What did you intend to do? What happened? And then you can kind of adjust it, for the next time. And then a sixth step is to protect your, the mental bandwidth, fatigue and stress and distraction and all these things, especially with the car drivers, that's noise. You got to move on, be calm, and a calm rider sees more and decides earlier and is a smoother, better rider.
6-step plan. I like it. Sounds like one of those diet things, doesn't it? Mark, fascinating again as always, and I'm really, really interested in this sort of this China or the Chinese approach to social media. That's very cool. Could you perhaps summarize our episode that we've been talking about here?
Yeah, well, clearly the motorbike world, it doesn't need more noise. It needs more signal, more structure, and more coaches who understand, how to help, riders improve. And, in the moment that matters, you'll perform based on what you've practiced. So make the practice count, keep improving in small steps and, choose those learning inputs carefully. That's the main thing.
Mark, fantastic. Cool. What's going on in the next episode?
Yeah, the next one's 29. So we're just flying through them, and it's about blending controls. So really kind of motorcycling dexterity.
Cool. That sounds fascinating. Another credible episode of important information coming your way. Mark, I'll let you crack on. Thank you for your time.
No worries, Michael. See you next time.
Fab. Thanks also to Honda Motorcycles UK and for supporting the whole series. In the meantime, don't forget to check out our other Better Riding episodes. I will put the playlist link in the comments section. I'll pin it to the top. There you are. So it's, or even in the description, but you'll be able to find it easily. Yeah, as Mark said, we've done 27 episodes so far. Plenty of information there for you to pick through. So not only can you put your questions, thoughts, comments in the YouTube section below, but you can always join us over at Bike Club. That's our own social media site. So, Facebook and Meta can do what they want with your data and they can show you cat videos or actual proper motorcycling advice, but we own Bike Club. So come and find us there. There's about 2,500 members there already. And you can ask all sorts of questions and we'll get some actual proper expert advice back to you. And then you can become a BikeSocial member as well. Now that comes with a whole raft of benefits. I think we've got approaching 300 different motorcycle apparel, clothing, training discounts. Just search for BikeSocial membership. It's free if you insure your bike directly with Bennetts. Otherwise, it's £6 a month or £60 a year. Fab, thanks again for making it this far, and we'll see you next time. Honda Motorcycles are supporting this series because safety is one of their key business pillars, and their quest for safety inspires their innovations in products, technology, and education, which is why they're committed to achieving zero traffic fatalities involving Honda mobility products worldwide by 2050.